Alright, hey there ladies and gentlemen. So, my name is Hunter. I am one of the owners of Bracken Recycling here in San Antonio, Texas. And today, this is my first video that I'm doing on scrapyard knowledge. You know, I watch YouTube videos all the time and it has people explaining how to make money, scrapping metal and things like that. And the problem is, I always see and people are just misinformed or whatever it might be. You know, so I figured if I made a video that was from a scrapyard owner's perspective, that it might actually help people a lot. And I want to make more. You know, I'll wait for see what the feedback is and see if I'll waste any of my time. If I'm wasting my time. So today I'm just gonna go over copper. All my other videos are gonna be just right to the point. And I hate watching videos and 5 minutes is somebody driving to a scrapyard. Nobody wants to watch you drive to a scrapyard for 5 minutes talking about yourself, okay? So we're on YouTube to find out, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? So we're gonna start with copper today. And I'm gonna teach you a little bit about copper. And if you have any questions, write them in the comments. I will answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer for you. But I've been around scrap my entire life, so I know quite a bit about it. So we're going to start with bare bright copper. And keep in mind that every scrapyard, depending on where you're from, what location, just all kinds of things matter about. People buy, all scrapyards classify the metals differently. They can. There's a basis for it, but you know, one scrapyard might say, well, that's number 2 copper, and another scrapyard might say that's number 1. So I've watched a lot of videos and people talk about, oh, well, you know, I got screwed over because this guy bought it as number 2 and he'll buy it as number 1. The most important thing to do that I tell everybody at the end of the day is look at the bottom line. What did they pay you per pound? That's all that really matters. I don't care if you call my copper 3,000, 5,000 copper, whatever copper you want. What are you going to pay me per pound for my material? And that goes for all materials. What are you going to pay me per pound? I don't care what you call it. You can write it down on your little sheet and put it on your computer, however you want. That's what I would tell a buyer. You know, enter it however you want. What are you paying me per pound? Okay, so doesn't mean you're necessarily getting screwed over if someone doesn't pay you as much as another scrapyard. Okay, there's plenty of reasons why they might pay you less. You know, maybe they just don't want it as bad. You know, it's just like you know, why does one department store, you know, sell a dress or something like that for less than another? You know, it's just all about how bad that scrapyard wants it. Maybe they don't have as good of an outlet for it as the scrapyard across the street. Maybe they buy a whole lot more so they get a better price so they can work off of volume. There's a number of reasons. Now, there's plenty of scrapyards out there that are going to take advantage of you. So just be aware, you know, and use your own common sense. That's all I can really tell you. So this is, at our scrapyard, we classify this as bare bright copper, and it pays the most out of all the coppers. I'm going to try to get a close-up there so you can see it. It's pretty much bright, shiny copper. Pretty self-explanatory. Bare bright copper. And it pays the most here. So one thing that is necessary is obviously that it's bright and shiny, but also if you see each individual wire, and I peeled one back so you can see it, you see each individual wire right there. So the diameter of each individual wire needs to be at least the diameter of like an average paper clip, you know, to be considered bare bright. If it's smaller than that, you know, even if it's bright and shiny, it's not going to go in the bare bright. And it becomes like hair wire. It looks like hair. Okay. Now, I know what you're probably saying. A lot of you are going to be like, well, my paper clip's different size than your paper clip. I'm just trying to give you an idea. Okay. So, you know, use your own common sense for that. So, I'm done with this, and I'm done playing around with it and hanging around my neck. You probably don't want to see it anymore. So get rid of it. Okay. Next up. Number 1 copper. It can be anything. So it can be anything that's you know, doesn't have solder or paint or anything on there. Trying to get a little close up. It could be pipe, wire, whatever. It's all going to be number 1 copper. Pretty much just clean number 1 copper. No other attachments. No non-metallics on there. Anything like that. So then you have number 2 copper. Number 2 copper is going to be anything that has solder, paint, or any of the things I just described that aren't on number 1 copper. So like this, it's hard to see, but all these little places where it's joined together with the copper is solder. Some people don't know what solder is, and they use that to put pipes together and things like that. Copper, they use it in electrical, things like that. Anyways, it's a non-conformity when it comes to copper. The reason that it's less money is because when they melt this down compared to melting something like this down, they're going to get better percentage of copper out of this one. That's why it's worth more. So you have stuff like this that has paint on it. That's number 2 copper. If it's silver coated, it's number 2 copper. This is a pipe that's silver coated. It's got chrome, silver, whatever you want to call it. This is the same thing, silver coated. This doesn't even look like number 2 copper, and a lot of people think that stuff like this is brass, but all you have to do is take a file and scratch into it. If you see the copper color, most likely it's probably copper. Throw it in with your copper stuff, take it to the scrapyard, and they'll be able to tell you. This same thing, there's solder here, and there's solder on the other side. And just because it's not silver doesn't mean it's not there. Just look for it, you'll be able to tell that it's on there. This same thing, silver coated. You can't really tell because you can't get it close enough to the camera because they don't have super long arms, and I'm kind of like a stubby guy, you know. So, anyways, again, how I was talking about the diameter of a paper clip. So if you get a bunch of hair wire, it looks kind of like this. It's really thin, looks like your hair. You know, and each individual strand is smaller than the diameter of a average paper clip. That's going to be considered number 2 copper. Again, some scrapyards might throw it in with their number 1. Some of them might call it number 3 copper, or I don't know. People have all kinds of different categories of copper. But here at Bracken Recycling, it's number 2 copper. Same thing with this. It's just another form of hair wire that you can see. And in a second here, I'll get a close-up of everything. So that's all number 2. Same thing. Here you can really see the solder. That's what the solder looks like when, you know, it's freshly put on there. It's silver. And they use it, stick this in, solder on there, and it holds it together. Now, as far as this, and I'll get a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. So as far as something like this, now this is something, if you brought this in, you'd probably want to cut it. You know, I would not waste time cutting all this to make it number 1 and, you know, then have your number 2 copper. But this for sure, because this is plastic, sometimes it's die cast. This part of it right here is going to be brass, and this is iron right here, this pipe, this joining it together is iron. This is also brass. All those items are worth less than copper. All right, there you go. You got to close up my beard. So all those are worth less than copper. So you definitely want to cut those off, okay? Now, to just kind of break it down for you, if that's something you like to do, sit in your garage, kick back, have some beers, and sit there and cut and clean copper, then by all means do it. You know, if it's therapeutic for you, then heck, do it. Who cares, you know, if it's taking up all your time, right? However, the way I kind of look at it, should I clean it? Should I cut it? People always ask me, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Here's the thing you should do. When you go to the scrapyard, look around the scrapyard. And I tell all my customers, if you don't see us doing it here, then it's probably not worth your time. If you see us doing it here, then maybe it is worth your time, because we've been around this for so long. We've been there, done that. We've seen what works, what doesn't work, what costs a lot of money, what doesn't, what makes you more money. So we know. So if you don't see us doing it there, then most likely it's not beneficial to you to sit there and do it. So, you know, if you have a big pipe like this, if you have big pipes like this and just the end right here is soldered, by all means, you should probably cut it, because then you can upgrade the copper to number 1 copper, okay? But pretty much here's what I would do if I were you. Maybe just one time, you know, you take a bunch of your copper that you've collected, okay, and you know, weigh it up on the scale at home. Now, you know, keep in mind the scale at home You know, you probably got it from Walmart or whatnot. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's pretty dang close, you know. So put it on the scale, weigh it up, and then time yourself, you know. And time yourself like you would normally clean it. Don't time yourself like, oh, a speed racer. Oh, look, I got knife hands. You know, it's not going to work. So cut it up, time yourself, and then whatever yard you take it to, call them and say, what's the price for number 1 and what's the price for number 2? Okay, do the math on your own and say, okay, well, I upgraded all this to number 1 and this is number 2. I would have sold it all for number 2 if I wouldn't have cleaned it, right? So just do the math on it and be like, well, this is how much more I made because I cleaned it. And you'd be really surprised because a lot of times people don't even realize that they cleaned all these nitty gritty pieces and they realize that they're only making like $5 or $6 an hour. And so I always think of it like, if I'm doing something that is off of work, you know, to make more money, I would assume that I would want to make more than my normal job. And if your normal job is to go out there and scrap, then keep that in mind. Be like, man, I just wasted 2 hours and I made $5 an hour upgrading all that stuff. I could have been out there hustling more scrap, you know. So time management is really important. I have 5 kids at home and a wife, so time management is very important for me. I probably got to get going soon. So I hope you liked this video. I hope it was informative. And if you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the comment section, and I'll answer whatever questions you have about scrapyards. Anything you've ever wondered, you're like, oh, I wonder this, I wonder that, I wonder, you know, and you just feel like you never got a straight answer. I'll give them to you. I'll give you straight answers, and like I said, if I don't know the answer, then I'll find it for you. I don't know the answers to everything, but when it comes to scrap, this is something that I really genuinely love to do, and so I would love it if I could help any of you. And you know, I'm sure there's going to be people that come out with all kinds of comments about, oh, that guy do. But, you know, whatever. There's always going to be haters. Hate is going to hate. So, anyways, hope you like my video.